Headway 5th edition, Advanced Students Book. Class audio by Liz and John Soares and Paul Hancock. Published and copyright Oxford University Press 2019. CD4. 10.1. How well do you know your body? 1.
Every day, the average person loses between 50 and 100 hairs, but you would have to lose over 50% of the hairs on your head before anyone would notice. Blondes have more hair, about 140,000 hairs on their head. Brunettes average about 110,000, people with black hair about 108,000, and redheads come in last with about 80,000 average hairs on their head.
2.
The average adult heart is about the size of 2 fists. The main artery from the heart, the aorta, is about the diameter of a garden hose. The human heart creates enough pressure to squirt blood up to a distance of 30 feet.
3.
Nerve impulses to and from the brain travel as fast as 250 miles per hour. The fastest messages are to the brain's pain receptors, telling you that that metal is hot. It's a common myth that we use only a small part of our brain. It may be as little as 10% when resting, but during the course of a typical day, we use 100% of our brain.
4.
According to a study by the Mayo Clinic in the US, the 3 most common reasons for visits to the doctor are skin complaints, joint problems, for example arthritis, and back problems. Another common complaint is referred to by doctors as TAT, T-A-T-T, tired all the time.
5.
Fingernails grow roughly twice as fast as toenails, and both now grow 25% more than they did 70 years ago as a result of our protein-rich diet. The fastest growing nail is on the middle finger. The longer the finger, the faster the nail grows.
6.
Most people blink around 15 times a minute, but that reduces by a half when staring at a computer screen, which is why long-term computer users often suffer from dry eye syndrome. It increases when lying. Babies blink only twice a minute.
7.
Children have 3 times as many taste buds as adults, which is why they often find bitter vegetables inedible and why older people enjoy them more. The number of taste buds varies widely between people, with some people having 4 or 5 times as many as others. By the age of 60, most people will have lost about a half of their taste buds.
8.
Babies are born with 50% more bones than adults have. Many of these bones then fuse together, making larger bone structures that would have made it impossible for the baby to be born. As adults, we are about 1 centimetre taller in the morning than in the evening, when our joints have settled and become thinner.
10.2. Dr. Martin Crispin. 1.
A leading private surgeon is reported to be under investigation for fraud.
2.
Dr. Martin Crispin is believed to own 3 private clinics in London.
3.
Dr. Crispin and his colleagues are said to charge up to £1,000 for a consultation.
4.
Dr. Crispin was supposed to have qualified in South Africa.
5.
He is now known never to have trained as a surgeon.
6.
His medical certificates are now assumed to be fakes.
7.
He was considered to be a specialist in cosmetic surgery.
8.
Dr. Crispin is understood to have been sued recently by 5 different patients.
9.
2 of his colleagues are alleged to have performed surgery while drunk.
10.
The doctor and his wife are presumed to have gone into hiding this morning.
10.3. Down to earth with a bump. Part 1.
So you took off okay. What went wrong?
Yeah, I took off fine, and I was doing very well in the race. I was going along with a bunch of others, and it was getting progressively windier. We were jumping from mountain range to mountain range. And I split up with the people I was flying with, and I got stuck in a little windy valley, and I got lower and lower. And really, where the wind mixes with the mountainscape, you get a lot of turbulence. And I was just at the wrong height. We carry a reserve with us, and normally you can throw your reserve if the wing collapses.
So that would be a parachute, effectively.
A parachute, yeah, and you can come down under that. Or normally the wing will reopen itself anyway, but I was at the height where the reserve wouldn't open, and it was still high enough to hurt when I hit the ground.
So how far did you fall, do you think?
Probably about 60 feet, I think.
Oh, my goodness. And what was the impact like? What do you remember of it?
I remember bouncing quite a lot, and I rolled over a few times, then came to rest underneath a few bushes, but generally I was pretty well bashed up. I'd broken all the ribs on my left, my pelvis in about 5 places, and my left arm completely snapped off the humerus, the ball joint on my.
Oh my goodness, you must have been in terrible pain, weren't you?
So I was in a lot of pain, and I was a bit shocked, really.
You were wearing sunglasses, weren't you, as well, at the time?
Yeah, my nice new sunglasses dug into my nose, and so my face was bleeding quite a lot. And so, yeah, generally bashed up.
So when you kind of came to a standstill, what was going through your mind?
Well, I just looked around and checked that I was still alive. I checked all my limbs and thought, well, basically I'm bashed, but I'm not. I'm still here. I had a strange thing where my eyesight started to degrade. I'd been looking around the clouds and the mountains just to see if anybody had seen me crash, and there was nobody. And then after a while, all I could see was maybe 100 yards into the grass, and then that came right down to just the twigs around me.
And why was that happening?
And it was shock. And I had this weird voice saying, "Oh, Guy, this is a classic sign of shock. You need oxygen now." And I said out loud, "Oh, that's lucky. I've got some oxygen with me." So I reached into my pack. We fly very, very high in Idaho, so you do need oxygen from time to time. Reached into my pack, found my oxygen tube, turned it on full blast and snorted some of that, and 10 minutes later I was up. It was like a computer rebooting, and all my vision came back. And
how did you know that?
I didn't know it. It must have gone in at some point. Yeah, and I'd remembered it.
That's tremendous. That's
very,
quite
very
amazing. And did you have any way of calling for help? Did you have a radio? Did you have a mobile telephone?
I punctured a lung as well, so I did yell help, but it didn't come out very loud.
10.4. Down to earth with a bump. Part 2.
I had a mobile phone, but there was no signal. I had a radio, but that obviously malfunctioned when I hit the ground. And I had what I did need was a satellite tracker. The organisers of the competition had given us trackers, but they worked off the mobile phone signal, and that didn't work either. So I was completely stuck.
You're completely isolated in the middle of nowhere, no means of communication. Did you panic?
No, I just lay there. I made myself as comfortable as I could in my harness and thought, well, if I get rescued before dark, I might get away with my wife and kids not finding out about what predicament I was in.
But you didn't get rescued before dark, did you? You had to spend the night there. What was that night like?
Well, that was I was sort of quite comfortable.
It was the first night, in fact, wasn't it?
Yeah, the first night.
Yeah.
So I crashed at about 3:00 in the afternoon. And the first night, it was fine. I was reasonably comfortable, and I just thought I was starting to nod off to have a snooze. And then I heard this awful growling noise.
Right. What did you think that was?
I didn't know what it was. I looked up behind me. I could just crane my neck round and saw up on the side of the hill a huge, great big bear. So that really concentrated the mind for a while. So I tried to make where I was look to the bear like it was a little hunting camp. So I took pictures with the flash on my mobile phone,
What, trying to frighten it with the light?
Yeah, and I sang She'll Be Coming Round the Mountain When She Comes.
Because you thought the noise would frighten the bear off?
Yeah, well, I just hoped that they would think that there were maybe more than one person there.
And is that what happened? Did the bear go away and leave you?
It didn't like also my canopy was fluffing around in the wind, so it didn't like that either, so it didn't come any closer. I heard it later in the night crashing about in the trees below me, but
I bet you didn't get much sleep.
No, I was sort of a bit fitful.
10.5 Down to Earth with a Bump. Part 3.
Then the next day you decided to get moving, didn't you?
Yeah, I decided that you can't last that long without water. I had a few litres of water and it looked like there was a nice river at the bottom of the valley. So I thought at least if I could get next to the water, I'd be fine. And
how did you move, though? You broke your pelvis.
I pushed with my good arm and pulled with my legs, and I managed to make my way through the grass, and it was quite painful. But
quite painful. It's setting my teeth on edge just thinking about that.
But I got all the way down to the bottom of the valley, and it was completely dry. So I knew I had to start walking somehow. So I reached out a hand and there was this amazing stick. So it took me a couple of hours, very painful hours, to get to my feet.
2 hours to get to your feet.
Yeah. But with the stick, I was able to make very slow progress. I move the stick, swing one leg, swing the other one, and on I go. And so I made about a mile that day. And in the evening, the weather started to break down, and it's a very desert area. I mean, it hardly ever rains there, but that evening there was a huge thunderstorm. So I just lay on the ground and got completely drenched with this thunder and lightning going on all night. And
what was the first clue that you might be going to be rescued?
The first clue was the next day I heard a helicopter coming into my valley at about 3 in the afternoon, and it came into my valley and then flew straight out the other side. So I just thought, well, they've missed me, and that's the end of that. But in fact, there was a friend of mine, Russell Ogden, a very old paragliding. He's a bit of a legend in the paragliding world, and he had seen me out of the corner of his eye. He's got terrible eyesight, but he's still seen me. And he yelled at the helicopter pilot to go round. They went round and landed, and I didn't hear that because there was a bend in the valley, and they'd landed, seen my canopy, and landed by it. Russ jumped out of the helicopter, nearly broke an ankle, and then raced down. They saw my track and raced down the valley, trying to find me.
And what did you find out later about the nature of the search operation that had been launched? Because I mentioned earlier, it was quite an extensive operation.
Huge operation going on. I had no idea, but there were probably 100 people up in the mountains, all out on mountain bikes, and there were light planes up. There were just people on their days off who'd heard about it and were out looking. And it was when eventually I got found. The helicopter eventually came down the valley and did find me. And when it went out on the radio, there were hoops of joy amongst the people looking. So it was a great
goodness.
Big moment.
And what about your family? You said you'd hoped that they might not find out. Presumably they'd have been told, and they'd be very worried.
Horrible 24 hours at home, all waiting. But they were very stoic and quite brilliant, and we're a very close family. And it was very difficult for them, I know.
And I gather that after the rescue, you updated your Facebook profile with the words "Guy Anderson is world champion hide and seek winner."
Yes.
Which shows a certain sense of humour.
A few people thought I actually was.
How long did it take you to recover from your injuries?
Where I'd crashed, I'd actually just got enough points to get me into the big race of the year, which is the World Cup Super Final. So I had between August when I crashed and January when the Super Final was to get better enough to compete in the big race of the year. So just under 6 months.
And you had no doubt at all about going back?
I had plenty of doubts, and I it's really the worst thing is for my family. I know that I put them through hell, but it's a horrible addiction that I have to flying. But it does put you in places that you can only dream of, and I can't stop it.
Guy, it's an amazing story. Thank you very much indeed for joining us.
10.6 Meanings of quite. Listen and repeat. A.
It was quite brilliant.
B.
It was quite good.
C.
It was quite good.
10.7. Meanings of quite. Listen and reply. 1,
That lesson wasn't as dull as I expected.
Yes, it was quite interesting.
2,
Emma's not an easy child to deal with, is she?
Oh, she can be quite impossible sometimes.
3,
I noticed that Bob wasn't exactly thrilled with his birthday present.
He seemed quite pleased.
4,
They charge £1.30 for a small bottle of water. Don't you think that's silly?
It's quite ridiculous.
5,
It's a lovely day for February, isn't it?
Yes, it's quite warm.
6,
So I hear the exam wasn't as much of a challenge as you expected.
Well, it was quite difficult.
7,
So, you decided to rent the room. You didn't find it too small.
No, I thought it was quite big.
8,
It's not like any other cafe, this one, is it?
No, it really is quite unique.
10.8. Words to do with the body. 1,
Come on, don't let it all get you down. Keep your chin up.
2,
I tried to persuade Pete, but he dug his heels in and refused to change his mind.
3,
I find it hard to stomach when politicians half my age start preaching to me.
4,
It varies, but as a rule of thumb, I'd allow 20 minutes a mile on this walk.
5,
The teachers in my school were pretty strict. They made us toe the line.
6,
How dare he expect me to tidy up after him? What a cheek!
7,
I'm ashamed about it all, but I'm glad I've told you. I needed to get it off my chest.
8,
The boys stood on one side of the room, eyeing up the girls on the other side.
9,
The government talks as if they're concerned about the environment, but they're just paying lip service.
10,
These candlesticks aren't easy to clean. You'll need a bit of elbow grease.
10.9. Verbs to do with the body. 1,
Oh, lovely cat.
2,
Oh, how lovely to see you again.
Ooh.
3,
Psst! Look over in the corner at what that man's wearing.
4,
Oh, sorry, I really couldn't eat that.
5,
These tablets are huge.
6,
Yes, definitely.
7,
How dare you?
8,
It's cinnamon, I think. Or maybe cloves.
9,
Move over!
10,
Oh, terrific! Well played!
11,
Stop it! Oh, give up!
12,
Could you step this way, sir? And hold out your arms?
10.10 Intonation on question tags.
But you didn't get rescued before dark, did you? You must have been in terrible pain, weren't you? You decided to get moving, didn't you?
10.11 Tags in conversation. A.
You've made a mess of this, Prime Minister, haven't you?
B.
So, you left your homework on the bus, did you?
C.
Try some of my bread. That's a damn fine loaf, that is.
10.12 Match the tags. 1.
You will be careful, won't you?
Of course I will. It's not a very difficult climb. It's only 3,000 metres.
2.
So, you were out with Lisa last night, were you?
What if I was? And I'm certainly not going to tell you what happened.
3.
You meant to kill the victim, Mr. Jones, didn't you?
I absolutely did not. It was a horrible accident.
4.
I've been a bit stupid, haven't I?
You haven't. It's so easy to be taken in by internet scams.
5.
You're lazy, you are.
Am I? Says who? Mister, isn't it time for another coffee break?
6.
So, these are the spacious bedrooms, are they?
Indeed they are, though the other estate agent did describe them as compact.
7.
That can't be right, can it?
It is. We did have starters, and we've had quite a lot to drink.
8.
I always do a good job, I do.
Do you? Well, I think Mr. Johnson will have the final say on that.
9.
Oh, yeah. Camping will really appeal to Joe, won't it?
Well, it will have to. We can't afford to stay in a hotel this year.
10.
So that's all the help I'm getting, is it?
It is, I'm afraid. I've painted 3 walls. I really have to pick up the kids from school now.
11.
It won't hurt, will it?
Not much. It's a very small needle.
12.
I went and beat him, didn't I?
Did you? Wow! Well done. Those tennis lessons were obviously worth it.
13.
That's a proper cup of coffee, that is.
It sure is. I grind the beans myself.
14.
Let's eat, shall we?
Yes, I'm starving.
10.13 Conversations. Listen and compare. 1.
You haven't seen my car keys, have you?
No, you had them this morning.
That doesn't mean I know where they are now, though, does it?
Well, let's look in the places you usually leave them, shall we?
I've already done that.
And here they are. Now, that wasn't hard, was it?
Oh, thanks. You're a star, you are.
2.
You've forgotten the shopping list, haven't you?
Yes, I have.
But I gave it to you as we were leaving, didn't I?
Yeah, but I've left it on the kitchen table.
Oh, you're so forgetful, you are.
Oh, and you're perfect, are you?
11.1. Pete talking about his tech. Me and my tech. I'm totally at sea without my phones. I have two, for personal stuff and work. And these days I use my tablet, an Apple iPad, for writing stuff, more than I use my computer. I think it's easier. I'm a bit of an Apple fanboy. I have the iPad, the iPhone and the iMac. And I have literally hundreds of apps. Lots of weather apps and games. My favourite game is Defender. It's because it's the game I played as a child, when computer games first came out. My wife says I'm the original gadget man. You name it and I have it. I like PlayStations for games, fitness gadgets like withings and wireless weighing scales. I kind of started to take my health seriously. Must be an age thing. Oh, and music gadgets like Sonos. I have a Sonos system at home. Yeah, and I stream music everywhere. Downstairs and in our bedroom. I use Spotify and internet radio for this, but I still have a normal radio in my car and a sat-nav, of course. I have two, one in my car and one on my phone. It's much better because it gives traffic info as well. I haven't used a map for ages. I suppose in some ways I'm a techno geek, but I'm not a great social networker, although I have used LinkedIn for work and jobs. One thing I could do without is so many emails. I get thousands a week, mainly work, but it really bugs me the way colleagues in the same office email you rather than pick up the phone or walk over and have a proper conversation. It's weird. Technology both connects you and isolates you at the same time. You can connect with friends and family all over the world. You can Facebook or Skype them, and that's great. But then you see couples in restaurants, both on their phones, and not communicating with each other. My wife and I make a point of conversing fiercely across the table when we're out together. More than we do at home. There's so much tech around already, it's difficult to keep pace with it all, so I have no idea what the future holds. Time travel would be brilliant. I'd like to go backwards, not forwards, maybe to just after the war in London. That would be interesting. Or better still, back to a really great Wimbledon tennis final. I'm not sure about 3D printers. My son, he's 8, says he'd use one to make all the Lego bits he's lost. Sounds like a good idea to me. I suppose the future is this Internet of Things thing, where you can run your whole house via the internet, sit at work and turn the oven on, or mow the lawn with a robot lawnmower. But heck, we'll all become so unfit, so unhealthy. Mind you, I suppose I'll still have my fitness app. Actually, I've changed my mind. I'd like to time travel 100 years into the future just to see what happens technology-wise. What on earth will the world be like? 11.2. The Internet of Things. You and yours.
This is You and Yours, Radio 4's consumer programme. If you've got a smartphone and a laptop, they'll be connected to the internet when they're switched on. And it's predicted that by 2020, lots and lots of other things we use will also be connected. Things as varied as rubbish bins, car parks, roads and fridges. It's being called the Internet of Things. And Ofcom, the communications regulator, is predicting that up to 50 billion things will be linked to the web by the end of this decade. Lots of people have stuff that's linked already. Here's Christian Payne, he's a technology blogger.
It's early days for the Internet of Things, and yet there are so many things talking on the internet right now. More things than people, in fact. Stood at the side of a busy road in London, and it wouldn't surprise me at all to find out that many of these cars and vehicles are at this moment connected to the internet, whether it be through their tracking devices or their navigation apps, which are logging and reporting and recording data, not just for the user in the vehicle, but also other people wanting to know about traffic conditions and journey times ahead. I personally use an app that does this, an app which has been in the news a lot recently called Waze. I find it vital for me to get to where I want to go faster and quicker. It also notifies me in real time should there be speed traps, but obviously I drive within the parameters of the law. I can also see other drivers using the same app, and it's kind of comforting to know that there are people as geeky as me logging data as they drive. Around my neck at the moment I have an autographer, an automatic camera, which for bloggers, it's a normal device. It enables you to document your day in images which can connect to your mobile phone and be shared very easily to social spaces where you can keep a record of events that you want to remember personally, but you can also share that with anybody with an internet connection. Standing in Regent's Park, and just in the last minute I've seen 15 or so runners passing me by, all wearing the same kind of technology I have around my neck, a fitness computer. Some of them are just using their mobile devices, some of them have wristbands, but what these little computers are doing are logging speed, location in some instances, how many calories they're burning, how active they are, and this will stream to the internet, perhaps through their mobile device, and enable them to compete with their friends. If I'm sat too long at my desk, in my office, I can get a notification from a friend telling me maybe I should get up and have a walk. I really like this peer pressure forcing me to be more active. This is just the beginning of connecting our bodies to the internet in this way. Health is going to be revolutionized by where we choose to place this data, whether it be with our local doctors or organizations who are researching anything to do with the body.
Christian Payne, and we wondered if this technology is just for serious enthusiasts like him or for everyone, and we decided to ask William Webb. He's Deputy President of the Institute of Engineering and Technology. William, this talk of 50 billion devices by the end of the decade suggests some kind of revolution's about to happen to us. Do you think it is?
I think it is, but it's more going to happen to machines than to us. Now, of course, we interact with machines a lot, so what we'll notice is lots of things just working better. Our car will take us better to the place we want to get to. Our washing machine will work better. But I don't think it will impact us as obviously and as immediately as something like the iPhone and the change to smartphones did. And indeed, the whole idea of this really is to work in the background to make our world a better, easier place to live in, rather than to be in our face the whole time.
We had some practical examples there from Christian Payne, but tell us, what would be the benefit of a fridge communicating with the net?
Oh, the fridge has been an example that's been quoted for so long, it's almost become a joke, hasn't it? There are a lot of reasons why we might want to start connecting many of our white goods in our home. Most of those actually revolve around either maintenance or energy usage. So, for example, the fridge could note that its compressor was starting to labour harder, and as a result it was probably going to break at some time in the next few months. In fact, it's quite easy to spot imminent breakdown of those kind of components, and it could send a message out to the manufacturer or to the retailer warning them that this was happening, and you could have someone effectively ring you up and say, I need to come and maintain your fridge, before it actually failed and you lost all the goods that were in the fridge.
This may be a naive question, but won't these gadgets crowd out the space available, overload the system?
They could overload our existing cellular phone systems, which is why a number of people, including myself, are looking at alternative wireless technologies that are optimised very specifically for these machines.
Now, some people worry that all this reliance on technology, even as we have it now, relying on the sat-nav rather than a map, that we are making ourselves vulnerable to attack. Are they right?
Well, we're certainly getting much more reliant on all sorts of technology. Now, of course, this is nothing new. We've become reliant on electricity over the last century. We've become reliant on the internet over the last decade. And if either of those two systems went down, I think people's lives would be dramatically altered. And I think what tends to happen is, at first, people don't rely too much on these new things. So when you first got your sat-nav, you probably also kept the map in the car just in case the sat-nav didn't work. And then progressively over time, you become more reliant on it as you see that it is more reliable. But we do need to make sure, absolutely, that we are safe against all kinds of potential failure, either from terrorists or failure that might be caused by software errors or lack of electricity or similar kinds of things.
William Webb, we must leave it there. William Webb, Deputy President of the Institute of Engineering.
11.3 Questions. Listen and compare. 1.
When might billions of things be connected to the internet? What kind of things?
2.
Who are Christian Payne and William Webb?
3.
What does Christian find comforting?
4.
Where does he wear his autographer?
5.
What does he wear it for?
6.
How many runners did he see?
7.
How does William Webb think white goods will mainly interact with the internet?
8.
Which thing is quoted so often that it's become a joke?
9.
Why is he looking at alternative wireless technologies?
11.4 How we use stuff. 1.
Thanks for the great feedback on my report.
I was impressed. You really know your stuff.
Do you think so?
Oh, yes. You're destined for great things at this firm.
2.
What sort of stuff do you get with your new car?
Oh, all the usual stuff. Sat-nav, DAB radio, leather seats.
Doesn't sound like the usual stuff to me. You should see my old banger.
3.
How do you cope with all that pressure at work and 4 kids?
You know me. I'm made of strong stuff.
And you never moan.
Well, there's not much point. I just have to get on with it.
4.
Are you ready to go? We're late.
I'll just get my stuff and we can be off.
OK, I'll be waiting in the car.
5.
We were crossing a field and suddenly there was this huge bull heading towards us.
That's the stuff of nightmares. I'd have been terrified.
Believe me, we were.
6.
What a day! I'm in pieces. I lost my car keys and had to walk home in the pouring rain and...
Oh, come on, cheer up. Stuff happens. I'll make a cup of tea.
Oh, I need something stronger than that.
7.
Ugh! What's that on the carpet?
I'm not sure. It looks like a load of sticky brown stuff.
Ugh, it's melted chocolate. One of the kids must have dropped it.
8.
I did it! I can't believe it! 3 A's!
Great stuff. All that hard work paid off.
It did. I can really enjoy my holiday now.
11.5 Responses with future forms. 1.
You offer to pay for a round of drinks.
2.
You think you have no chance of passing the exams.
3.
Your theatre ticket says Hamlet, 7:30 p.m.
4.
You've made an appointment to get your hair cut tomorrow.
5.
You arranged to help your friend move flat, but now you find you can't.
6.
Next week, you will be on holiday. You can see yourself having a cocktail by the swimming pool.
7.
You can see yourself at 40. You've started your own business and it's already successful.
8.
You didn't get in touch with a friend because you had flu.
11.6 What do you say? Listen and compare. 1.
Hey, guys, I'll get this round in.
Thanks, Kev. I'll have a pint of best.
Mine's the same.
2.
I really don't think I have a chance of passing the exams. I'm definitely going to fail.
No, you won't. You say that every time and you do brilliantly.
3.
Hurry up, the play starts in half an hour.
I can't find my ticket anywhere.
We don't have them. We booked online. We're collecting them at the box office.
4.
I know, my hair's a mess, but I'm getting it cut on Saturday.
Not before time.
You can talk, look at yours.
5.
I'm really sorry. I know I was going to give you a hand with your move, but...
Yeah, and boy, do I need help.
I know you do, but I've just learnt I'm working in the Paris office next week and I can't get out of it.
Oh, never mind. It was good of you to offer.
But I'll help you with the decorating when I'm back.
Thanks. That'd be great.
6.
Can you believe it? This time next week, we'll be sipping cocktails by a swimming pool.
Yeah, before going out for an amazing meal in an amazing restaurant overlooking the sea.
And paying amazing prices.
7.
I'm aiming high. By the time I'm 40, I'll have set up my own business and I'll be earning a fortune.
Wow, you've really got your future sorted.
Yeah, I simply won't consider failure.
I admire your confidence. I haven't a clue what I'll be doing when I'm 40.
8.
I'm so sorry. I was going to get in touch and say let's meet for coffee, but I've had flu.
Not to worry. I'll meet you next week. Just say where and when.
Well, I was going to suggest the Cafe Nero, near your work.
Fine. Is Tuesday okay for you?
11.7. Antonyms. Listen and compare. 1.
One of my cats is quite tame and domesticated.
Ouch!
The other is totally wild.
You can say that again.
2.
I've always been successful at work, but my private life is a total failure.
Oh, you're being very hard on yourself.
3.
His ability to make money is admirable. However, I have nothing but contempt for the appalling way he deals with his employees.
I agree 100%.
4.
At first, they thought it was a genuine Da Vinci sketch, but it turned out to be a fake.
What a blow!
5.
I find it difficult to relax. My life is so hectic. So much to do, so little time.
You've got to learn to slow down.
6.
I was sure I'd seen her before. I didn't recognise her face, but her voice was familiar.
Who was it then?
7.
This road is straight for a while, but then it winds uphill for 2 miles.
This is the last cycling holiday I have.
8.
I know most people are very keen on travelling, but I really loathe it. I'd rather stay at home.
Would you? I wouldn't.
9.
You thought she dropped the vase accidentally, but believe me, it was on purpose.
No, surely not. She'd never do that.
11.8. Marge's diary.
Gee, what a waste. When you're through with the book, you just throw it away, I guess. Our television screen must have had 1 million books on it, and it's good for plenty more. I wouldn't throw it away.
Where did you find the book?
In my house, in the attic.
What's it about?
School.
School? What's there to write about school? I hate school. Why would anyone write about school?
Because it's not our kind of school, stupid. This is the old kind of school that they had hundreds and hundreds of years ago, centuries ago.
Well, I don't know what kind of school they had all that time ago. They had a teacher?
Sure, they had a teacher, but it wasn't a regular teacher. It was a man.
A man? How could a man be a teacher?
Well, he just told the boys and girls things and gave them homework and asked them questions.
But a man isn't smart enough.
Sure he is. My father knows as much as my teacher.
He can't. A man can't know as much as a teacher.
My dad knows almost as much, I betcha.
Well, I wouldn't want a strange man in my house to teach me.
You don't know much, Margie. The teachers didn't live in the house. They had a special building, and all the kids went there.
And all the kids learned the same thing?
Sure, if they were the same age.
But my mother says a teacher has to be adjusted to fit the mind of each boy and girl it teaches, and that each kid has to be taught differently.
Just the same, they didn't do it that way then. If you don't like it, you don't have to read the book.
I didn't say I didn't like it.
Margie, school.
Not yet, Mama.
Now. And it's probably time for Tommy, too.
Tommy, can I read the book some more with you after school?
Maybe.
Today's arithmetic lesson is on the addition of proper fractions. Please insert yesterday's homework in the proper slot.
Oh.
When we add the fractions 1/2...
Oh, how the kids must have loved it in the old days with a real teacher and other kids. What fun they had.
12.1 The Fall of the Twin Towers. An eyewitness account.
The day started much like any other day. I got on the subway. We came across the bridge and I remember noticing what a lovely day it was with the bright blue sky. I remember coming out of the subway as I normally did, and I saw a cloud, or what looked like a small cloud, white cloud, and I remember thinking, gosh, that's unusual because this sky is so totally clear. But I didn't think much more of it, and I set off walking to my office. I didn't get far. I got to the first block, and on the corner there were a couple of people looking up, staring up at the tower. So I looked down at what they were looking at and noticed that there what seemed to be, to me at the time anyway, a small hole. And you could actually see a few bits of flame around the edge. And I asked these two people what happened. And one of them said that a plane had flown into it. And I remember thinking, oh, gosh, no, that can't be true. As I walked, there was more and more smoke coming out. But I made it to my office and went up to the 16th floor. So I went into the office and there were lots of my colleagues there. Obviously, there was a lot of sort of confusion. And so I went to one of these offices with the clearest view and I looked out and I remember thinking, gosh, I don't remember that. There's a hole in the other side. Quite a few people who were in the office earlier than me that morning, they'd seen both of them. They started telling me about this second one that went down the river and sort of exploded towards them because it came from the south. Soon you could start to see they obviously started to evacuate, and there were just thousands of people walking straight up towards us and just pouring up towards us. I tried to phone family and friends, but none of the phones seemed to work. So I sent out an email. That seemed to be the one thing that was still working. I couldn't speak to any of my family in England. I did speak to my wife once when I first got in and told her to wake up and turn on the television and see what was happening. I was unable to get through to her after that. Be sort of surreal goings on, sending these emails backwards and forwards about what was happening outside my very window. And it was while I was writing an email, I heard some screams, and I ran round just to see sort of this huge cloud of smoke and people just shouting and screaming, it collapsed, it collapsed. This huge cloud of dust came, you could see it pouring up the avenues, and it sort of burst out through Battery Park, right out into the Hudson River, because I remember seeing lots of the ferries were all doing evacuations, taking people from every point they could, and they just got enveloped in this huge cloud of dust. There was so much dust you didn't know, whether how much it had fallen, whether it was just the top. I suppose we're all expecting to see something still there. We'd still see the other one standing because it had the big antenna, the big aerial on top of it. So as I stood there watching, I had no idea how long for, and then, of course, the other one collapsed. You could clearly see there was a very particular design, these long, sort of slightly ornate metalwork. I remember seeing that sort of explode out, and then you just saw the great big top with this giant aerial on just drop straight down, and you'd see all this other stuff just peeling away from the sides. You could see just each corner of it peeling back and this giant top just smashing down through it. And obviously there was all the dust and everything, and more screaming. We all thought, because we'd seen so many thousands of people walking north, that maybe everyone had got out, because there was this non-stop procession of people. In fact, I think our brains didn't even think about the fact that there were people inside it. You just sort of looked at it as a building, and you just assumed that there was no one in it. You just don't actually want to think about that. It was, unlike any feeling you've ever thought. There was no panic in the office, and also, very clear acknowledgement that something had changed in the world today, and we were sitting staring at it. It was quite the most incredible thing, and from what was just a normal, lovely New York autumn day, it's just incredible how much changed in that morning.
12.2 The Apollo Project.
10, 9. We have ignition sequence start. The engines are on. 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. We have commit. We have liftoff. Liftoff at 7:51.
The inspirational effect of Apollo, which touched so many of us watching from Earth, was largely driven by the pictures which these missions returned. Views of human explorers on an alien world fueled our imaginations. And those images of our home planet, filmed by men who were so far away from home, had an even more profound effect.
All right, you're looking good.
In December 1968, Apollo 8, only the second manned Apollo mission, was sent straight to the moon. It was the first time any astronauts had left low Earth orbit, and if everything went to plan, Frank Borman, Jim Lovell and Bill Anders would become the first humans to see the far side of the moon with their own eyes.
Actually, I think the best way to describe this area is a vastness of black and white. Absolutely no color. The sky up here is also a rather foreboding expanse of blackness with no stars visible when we're flying over the moon in daylight.
But it wasn't their unique views of the moon which these missions became most famous for. It was their views of the Earth, rising over the barren lunar surface, which fired the imaginations of us all. Historian Robert Poole is the author of Earthrise, How Man First Saw the Earth.
The NASA head of photography, Dick Underwood, was keen on getting photographs of the Earth. He'd had a lot of experience, but he was pretty much a lone voice in NASA. So although he'd done his best to prepare them for taking photographs, they weren't prepared in any professional kind of way. So when they did actually see the Earth rise from lunar orbit, it did take them completely by surprise, and you can hear the surprise in their voices. Wow, look at that.
Oh my God, look at that picture over there. There's the Earth coming up. Wow, that's pretty.
Yes, it's about the fourth orbit or something, isn't it? And there's a real scramble for the camera and some colour film, I think.
You got a color film, Jim? Hand me a roll of color quick.
Oh, man, that's great. Where is it?
Quick.
Down here?
Yes, they didn't have a camera ready. They only had black and white film in the one that they were using. The spaceship had only just turned around to face the right way. They were busy doing something else. And suddenly one of them said, "Look, there's the Earth." What in retrospect was the most significant moment, possibly of the entire Apollo program, looking back and seeing the Earth in context.
The fact that no one planned those pictures seems extraordinary now. But the astronauts' encounter with the Earth would inspire future Apollo crews to look back with new eyes on their home planet.
Yes, everything's looking good here, Apollo 9. Okay. We'll try to have your cutoff time shortly.
Apollo 9 was intended to test the entire Apollo flight system in Earth orbit, and astronaut Rusty Schweickart would make a spacewalk to test an emergency procedure for transferring between the Apollo capsule and the lunar module in case the two failed to connect.
Hey, Mr. Schweikert, proceed outdoors. Good, your camera on there, CMP? It's running. Okay. Proceeding on out.
On board, his colleagues Jim McDivitt and Dave Scott would capture his progress on camera. But as his test began, their camera broke. And whilst they were fixing it, Rusty ended up with 5 minutes outside on his own.
Oh dear, that looks comfortable. Oh boy, what a view. That's spectacular. It really is.
During that 5 minutes that Dave took to try and repair the camera, which frankly never happened, I held onto the handrail only with one hand, my left hand, and I sort of swung around to get a full view of the Earth and the horizon, just the spectacular beauty of the Earth. I mean, the blackness is so black, and the horizon is this brilliant, thin band of blue, which is the atmosphere above the blue and white Earth. I mean, the contrast, the reality of what you're looking at, I mean, it is incredibly impressive.
This would have been a wholly personal experience if Rusty hadn't been invited to speak at a major conference organised by the Lindisfarne Association in Long Island, New York, a couple of years later. Despite preparing for several hours, he had no idea what he was going to say until he found himself on stage.
And then I opened my mouth and I talked, and it was as if I was sitting in the audience going through the experience of flying in space at many different levels, actually. The physical level, sort of a technical diary almost, and then finally at a kind of spiritual level. And I had absolutely no plan to do that. I mean, it just came out that way, and by the time I was done, half of the people in the audience were crying, including me.
Okay, pull in.
You look down there and you can't imagine how many borders and boundaries you cross, again and again and again, and you don't even see them. There you are, hundreds of people in the Middle East killing each other over some imaginary line that you're not even aware of, that you can't see. And from where you see it, the thing is a whole, and it's so beautiful. You wish you could take one in each hand, one from each side in the various conflicts, and say, look at it from this perspective. Look at that. What's important?
That spontaneous lecture, later titled No Frames, No Boundaries, and transcribed as an essay about the Earth and us, resonated with the burgeoning peace and environmental movements of the time. And the images of Earth that poured back from the 8 subsequent Apollo flights to the Moon continued to raise our awareness of just how fragile our home planet seems to be.
12.3 Metaphorical Language. Conversation 2.
Hi, Annie. Fancy bumping into you here. I haven't seen you for ages.
I know. Time flies, doesn't it?
It sure does. Is your business still booming?
Yeah, I'm slaving away as usual. We're snowed under with orders at the moment, and I'm only just keeping my head above water. Still, mustn't grumble. How's your company doing?
Okay. Things went downhill a bit last year and we had to tighten our belts, but they're picking up now. And how's life in your sleepy little village?
Very nice. It's such a good place to unwind. Look, I must dash now, but I'll be in touch soon and get you round for dinner.
That would be great. Hope to see you soon.
12.4 Metaphorical language. Complete the sentences. 1.
It was the film 12 Angry Men that sparked my interest in law.
2.
The team's victory was overshadowed by the serious injury of their star striker.
3.
I've had a bright idea. It just came to me in a flash.
4.
I don't trust that guy you met last night. He seems a shady character.
5.
The space station is a shining example of international cooperation.
6.
I'd wondered why Bill's so rude, and then it dawned on me that he was jealous.
7.
There's another article on internet privacy here. It's a hot topic at the moment.
8.
I was relieved to get the hospital test results. It's been a cloud hanging over me.
9.
Don't ask me how to pronounce that word. I haven't the foggiest idea.
10.
You needn't worry about passing your driving test. It'll be a breeze for you.
11.
It was a whirlwind romance, and Steve and Linda were married within 6 weeks.
12.
I knew this would be my new home, and a feeling of happiness flooded through me.
13.
My job interview lasted over an hour. They gave me a really good grilling.
14.
I'm struggling in this job. I think I've bitten off more than I can chew.
15.
Oh, another of your half-baked ideas. You need to think things through more.
16.
Jones's athletics career ended on a sour note when he failed a drugs test.
17.
It's a rather bland autobiography. You don't learn anything very exciting.
18.
Thanks for your suggestions. That's given me food for thought.
12.5 Malcolm Gladwell. The Tipping Point.
Malcolm Gladwell wrote The Tipping Point in order to explain the way social trends suddenly take off, using Hush Puppy's shoes as his first example. Until their comeback in the late 90s, Hush Puppies had been a dying brand, owing to the fact that they were seen as old-fashioned. After a few young hipsters began wearing them in the clubs of Manhattan in 1995, though, the fashion began to spread. When fashion designers started wearing them too, sales boomed, and in the end, the shoes became one of the most popular fashion icons of the decade. This rapid turnaround in fortunes occurred even though the Hush Puppies company itself had played almost no part in it. Gladwell compares such social trends to medical epidemics. Although they may begin with only a few people being infected, provided that these individuals are influential and well-connected, the trend will slowly grow until the tipping point is reached, at which point the rate of spread accelerates enormously. The tipping point made interesting reading for marketing executives, as it showed that while widespread publicity may be achieved by expensive advertising campaigns, similar levels of exposure can be gained for far less as a result of word-of-mouth marketing. What's more, the advent of social media has greatly increased the role of viral marketing in starting social trends.
12.6 Linking devices. 1.
As well as studying English, I'm doing an evening class in photography.
2.
Once this course is over, I'm going to have a holiday in the UK.
3.
I know you're a good driver. All the same, I think you should drive more slowly on this road.
4.
I'm nervous about the exam, even though I've done loads of revision for it.
5.
Seeing as there are lots of sales on, I'm going to spend the afternoon shopping.
6.
You can leave work early provided that you've finished all those jobs I gave you.
7.
I arrived on time in spite of all the traffic.
8.
By the time you wake up tomorrow, I'll be in New York.
12.7. Emphatic expressions with do, does, did. 1.
I didn't need quite so much detail about your operation.
Well, you did ask.
2.
Didn't you think it strange that the car was so cheap?
Well, I did wonder.
3.
It's so embarrassing when Ken tells those sexist jokes.
Yes, I do wish he wouldn't.
4.
You didn't have to challenge Ken in front of everyone.
Maybe. He did deserve it, though.
5.
You shouldn't treat Emma like a child.
Well, she does behave like one sometimes.
6.
I can't believe how violent that DVD you lent me was.
I did warn you.
12.8. Word linking. The potato clock.
I was teaching an intermediate class, and there was a Japanese girl in it, Keiko, who was sharing a flat with an English girl. One day, Keiko came up to me after class and said, "Excuse me, what is a potato clock?" I was a bit baffled and said, "Sorry, a what?" She repeated, "A potato clock." My flatmate told me she has to get one tomorrow, but I didn't understand. I just had to admit to her that I had no idea what a potato clock was, and that she'd better ask her flatmate to explain. It was only later that it dawned on me what her flatmate had said.
12.9. Word linking. The potato clock.
I have to get a potato clock tomorrow.
12.10. Linking sounds.
This is an evening of anticipation and excitement.
12.11. 1.
It's an honour to present this award for Best Invention.
2.
The name is in an envelope as usual.
3.
I'll open it and read it out straight away.
12.12. Intrusive sounds. A.
Blue eyes.
B.
2 oranges.
C.
Go away.
D.
My office.
E.
The economy.
F.
3 apples.
12.13.
Law and order. Carla and Mike.
12.14. Linking and intrusive sounds. 1.
Anna and I are off to eat out in Oxford.
2.
Although it's the obvious answer, it isn't the easiest option.
3.
My aim is to sit on this sofa all evening and watch action and adventure movies.
12.15
JOHN SPEARS
12.16 What do you hear? 1,
It isn't easy to recognise speech.
2,
This guy is the limit.
3,
Some others will leave and say goodbye.
4,
6 students had a grade A.
5,
I scream in an ice-cold shower.
12.17 What do you hear? 1,
I have no notions of danger.
2,
It's important to give children a name.
3,
I told the postman I only accept addressed mail.
4,
We discussed the subject of euthanasia.
5,
Don't tell me that's tough.
12.18 Writing Alexander Fleming
Alexander Fleming was born in 1881 in Ayrshire, Scotland, where his father, who died when Alexander was 7, worked as a farmer. After leaving school, Fleming worked as a shipping clerk in London for 4 years. However, he inherited some money when he was 20 and enrolled at St Mary's Hospital School in order to pursue his interest in medicine. On completing his medical degree in 1908, winning gold medal as the top medical student, he joined the research team at St Mary's. During the First World War, Fleming served in the medical corps in France, working in a hospital set up in a casino in Boulogne. There he saw many soldiers die from wound infections and consequently decided to specialise in this area of medicine. Once the war was over, Fleming returned to St Mary's and thereafter applied himself to research into bacteria. On September the 28th, 1928, having just returned from a holiday, Fleming was cleaning Petri dishes in his laboratory so that he could reuse them. Owing to his general untidiness, the dishes had been left out in the warm laboratory for a month and were therefore covered in bacteria, as well as mould. As Fleming picked up one dish, he noticed that no bacteria were growing around the mould, so he decided to study it, in case it proved to be an antibacterial agent. Although Fleming discovered the world's first antibiotic, penicillin, it was 2 other researchers, Florey and Chain, who found a way to bring it to mass production in 1942, thus changing the face of modern medicine. By the time of the D-Day landings in 1944, enough penicillin had been produced to treat all of the wounded Allied forces in World War II.